You know that moment when you peel back the film on a ready meal? Pure convenience, right?
Oh, yeah. Straight into the microwave.
Exactly. But have you ever stopped to think about the tray itself, that bit of plastic?
Probably not consciously, no, but there's a surprisingly complex global story unfolding just in that packaging.
Absolutely. Today, we're plunging into the global market for these plastic ready meal trays. We're using insights from a pretty comprehensive industry report.
And it's not just about what holds your dinner. This is a multi-billion-dollar sector. Lots of interesting trends and big differences depending on where you are in the world.
Okay, let's try to get a handle on the scale then. The report forecasts a substantial market. By 2025, the worldwide market for these plastic trays, it's projected to hit USD 1,524.5 million.
Wow, over 1.5 billion.
And here's the kicker. By 2033, they think it'll grow to USD 2,269.6 million. That's with the compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 5.1%.
Right, 5.1%.
Yeah.
That growth rate, it really signals a fundamental shift in, how we eat. So our aim today is to unpack the key trends, figure out why these numbers look so different across the globe, and pinpoint the major forces really shaping this market.
Exactly. And for you listening, if you want to get up to speed quickly but thoroughly, we're going to pull out the most valuable insights. No getting bogged down in excessive detail.
Think of it as your shortcut to understanding an industry that's, well, maybe more intricate than it first appears.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture. As we mentioned, it's already a large market, set to expand quite a bit.
And that 5.1% annual growth, it's not random. It's fundamentally driven by our increasing reliance on convenience.
Right. The growing demand for those quick, easy, ready-to-eat meals is the real engine here. Seems like everyone's schedules are just packed.
They really are. And ready meals offer a practical solution.
So let's look at the global landscape. Where is this growth actually happening most?
Okay. The report gives a detailed regional breakdown. For 2025 market share and projected growth up to 2033, North America has the biggest piece right now.
Okay, how big?
Over 37% of the global market. That translates to about USD 564.07 million in 2025.
Right.
But their projected CAGR is a bit more modest, 3.9%.
Interesting. So biggest market now, but not the fastest growing. What about Europe?
Europe's number 2, over 29% share. That's around USD 442.11 million in 2025. Their CAGR is slightly higher, 4.2%.
Okay, so steady growth in those, let's say, established markets. Where's the real dynamism then?
That would be the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. They account for roughly 24% in 2025, about USD 365.88 million.
Still a big chunk.
Yes, but what's really striking is their projected CAGR.
7.8%.
Makes them the fastest growing region by quite a margin. This nearly 8% growth in APAC, it signals a fundamental reshaping,
How so?
It's not just more people buying ready meals. It could mean shifts in manufacturing hubs, material demand, things businesses globally really need to watch.
Almost double North America's growth rate. What's fueling that speed?
The report points to rapid urbanization and the booming food delivery sector across many APAC countries.
Okay.
More people in cities, less time for cooking, plus easy online food delivery. It all just drives up demand for these packaged meals.
Makes perfect sense. What about the other regions?
South America represents over 3.8% of the market in 2025, with a 5.4% CAGR. The Middle East is around 4% share, 5.6% CAGR.
Okay.
And Africa currently has the smallest share, about 2.2%, and the slowest growth, too, at 1.4%.
So a clear pattern. Established markets, big share, moderate growth. Developing regions like APAC, smaller share now, but growing much, much faster.
Exactly, driven by those changing lifestyles and infrastructure.
Now let's drill down even further. Specific countries.
Yeah, the report has some revealing country data for 2025. The USA, maybe not surprisingly, huge market, USD 445.05 million.
Right.
But again, a lower CAGR, 3.7%. And interestingly, the report notes a growing demand there for eco-friendly packaging.
That fits. We hear a lot about that consumer push in the U.S. How does China stack up within APAC?
China's market in 2025 is estimated at USD 153.67 million. A strong CAGR, though, 7.3%.
Still very high.
And the report highlights growth in their frozen food industry as a big factor for needing these trays.
Frozen meals, yeah, classic convenience.
Yeah.
Now, you said APAC was fastest overall. Is there one country leading that charge?
There is India, identified as the fastest growing country.
Really?
Yeah. 2025 market size of USD 36.59 million, but an amazing CAGR of 9.7%.
Wow, nearly 10%.
It really shows the dynamic expansion happening in parts of Asia. It's, yeah, pretty eye-opening.
Double-digit growth almost. Definitely one to watch. What about key European countries? UK, Germany.
Okay, UK market, USD 74.27 million, 5.0% CAGR. They note the rise of single-serving packaging there.
Yeah.
Germany is a bit larger, USD 87.54 million, 4.4% CAGR. Increased food safety awareness is mentioned as a factor.
Interesting angle.
And one more, Brazil and South America. USD 24.79 million market, 6.0% CAGR. There, they mentioned demand for more sort of premium-ready meals.
So even within regions, you get these specific national flavors influencing growth, not uniform at all.
Definitely not.
Okay, let's move beyond the numbers. What's actually pushing this market forward? The drivers.
Well, the report lists several key ones. First and foremost, the growth of food delivery and the takeaway sector, like we touched on with APAC.
Right, ordering meals online, it's just exploded.
And that ease and accessibility directly increase demand for packaged food. It's practical for the businesses, too, not just us.
True. What else?
Secondly, increasing urbanization and just changing lifestyles. More city living, often smaller spaces, less time. It leads to more reliance on ready-made meals.
The time crunch again.
Yeah. And finally, the report mentions advancements in the plastic packaging materials themselves.
Ah, so the tech is improving. Like what?
Things that make them more durable, maybe extend shelf life, or just function better, like being properly microwave safe.
Okay, but those advancements also bring us to the flip side, right? The constraints.
Exactly. The other side of the story. What's holding back even faster growth?
Let me guess. Environment?
Bingo. The primary factor is growing environmental concerns. Sustainability issues linked to plastic waste. That's a huge challenge for this industry.
Yeah, we're all much more aware of the plastic problem now.
Precisely. And that leads directly to the second constraint, rising consumer preference for eco-friendly alternatives.
People are actively looking for greener options.
They are, and sometimes demanding them.
So the market's being pulled two ways. Convenience pushing plastic use, environmental worries pushing against it. How does the industry respond?
Well, that tension is fueling the key market trends. The report really emphasizes the development of recyclable and biodegradable plastic trays. That's a major focus.
R&D into greener plastics.
Exactly. Companies are investing heavily to find solutions that work but are more sustainable.
Makes sense. Innovation is key. Any other big trends?
Another significant one is innovation in smart packaging and food safety tech.
Smart packaging.
Yeah.
For a meal tray. Like what?
Things like time temperature indicators or freshness sensors built right into the packaging.
Really? To tell you if it's still good?
Yeah, helps monitor quality and safety. It's quite a leap from just a basic plastic tray.
No kidding. Okay, let's talk materials. What plastics are we mostly seeing?
The report indicates polypropylene PP is likely the dominant material right now.
Why PP?
It's durable, it holds up well to microwaving heat without warping, and it resists grease and oil. Pretty crucial for food packaging, right? Seems like the real workhorse.
Yeah, PP sounds like the logical choice. Anything noteworthy happening with PP production?
Yes, the report mentions Bruges in the UAE increased its PP production capacity back in February 2022. Suggests continued strong demand.
Okay, so PP leads now, but what's coming up fast? Any materials gaining ground?
Absolutely. Polyethylene terephthalate PET is pegged as the fastest growing segment.
PT, like in drink bottles.
Exactly. It's durable, lightweight, it's clear, which is good for showing off the food, and it maintains food quality well. Plus, it's highly recyclable.
Ah, the recyclability factor is huge now.
Definitely makes it more attractive from that sustainability angle.
Any specific examples of PP gaining traction?
The report notes India's Bureau of Indian Standards issued a draft revised standard for peat bottles in edible oil packaging in June 2023. So growing use and regulation in food applications.
Interesting. So a bit of a material battleground, PP leading, PD rising fast. How are these trays actually made? Molding tech.
Right, the report segments by molding technology. Injection molding, that holds the largest share currently.
Injection molding, okay. Why is that dominant?
Well, it allows for really intricate designs, high production volumes, ideal for standardized mass-produced trays. It's efficient for huge quantities of consistent, high-quality trays, though the initial tooling cost can be high.
Right, standard process. Anything changing there?
The report mentions a sale involving Hellenbrand Inc. and its Millicron division. They make injection molding equipment back in Feb 2025. Could signal shifts in the manufacturing tech side that supports this market.
Okay, so moves happening behind the scenes. What about other molding methods?
Thermoformed molding is highlighted as the rapidly expanding segment.
Thermoforming, how's that different?
It involves heating a plastic sheet, then shaping it with a mold. It's often seen as more cost-effective, especially for shorter runs or simpler designs, more flexible perhaps. And it maintains food quality well, too.
Cost effectiveness is always key. Any innovations in thermoforming?
Yeah, Coverse introduced a recyclable thermoforming film in November 2023. It was designed for medical packaging initially, but shows innovation towards sustainability in that process, which could definitely flow over into food.
Sustainability again, it touches everything.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the trays themselves, different types?
The report breaks it down. Single cavity trays, they hold the largest market share.
The standard one compartment tray? Makes sense.
That's what most of us probably picture, yeah. Individual servings.
What else is growing?
Multi-cavity trays are expected to be the fastest growing segment.
Ah, the ones with dividers.
Exactly. For meals with different bits. Good for portion control. Stops your peas rolling into your mashed potatoes.
Huh, yes.
Yeah.
Or the gravy leaking into the dessert section. I know that relief.
We've all been there. They are practical, especially for things like meal prep services, maybe.
Definitely. Now, who's actually using all these trays? The end users.
Okay, food producers and processors. That segment holds the largest market share.
The companies actually making the ready meals.
Right. For them, the trays offer convenience, durability, cost-effectiveness. They're the primary customers driving the demand. Makes perfect sense.
They create the demand, sure.
Yeah.
Who's the fastest growing end user?
Catering services. That's expected to be the fastest growing segment.
Interesting. Why catering?
It points to more use in large-scale food prep. Think hospitals, schools, events maybe. Places where practicality, cost, convenience for lots of meals are really important.
So from individuals to big institutions, these trays are everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, this report also mentioned tariffs. This is where things get really interesting, right?
Oh, yeah. The report references the Liberation Day tariffs introduced by the U.S. April 2025.
And the stated goals.
Reducing trade deficits, boosting domestic manufacturing, that was the idea.
And these weren't small tariffs, were they?
No, definitely not minor tweaks. They range from 10% up to 46%, depending on the country.
Wow.
And notably, a 34% blanket tariff on many Chinese imports. Plus, you had reciprocal tariffs going back and forth, reaching really high levels.
So a major shakeup for global trade.
Huge! It wasn't just economics, it forced companies to rethink their entire global supply chains, potentially leading to more regional production, higher costs for consumers. A big deal.
What was the immediate hit on consumer goods, especially things related to food and these trays?
Pretty significant effects right away. Production costs went up because imported goods cost more.
Naturally.
Sourcing got trickier, led to delays, and inevitably, it pushed inflation upwards.
Can you give some specific examples of how different sectors felt it?
Sure. Apparel, footwear, they got hit with a 25% tariff. That really pushed companies to look at nearshoring, moving production closer.
Right.
Household appliances faced 20%, caused inventory headaches. Packaged foods and beverages, very relevant here, saw tariffs of 10–15%.
Okay, so what did they do?
Companies started diversifying suppliers, even reformulating products maybe, to use ingredients or packaging facing lower tariffs. Personal care firms saw costs rise for imported ingredients and packaging, pushing them towards local sourcing too.
And China's role as this huge manufacturing hub that was significantly impacted.
Absolutely. China is or was a key sourcing hub for so many consumer goods, directly or for components. The tariffs caused major disruptions.
So how did companies adapt? What were the strategies?
Several things. Nearshoring, like we mentioned. Moving production to places like Vietnam, India, Mexico became more attractive.
Right.
Companies adopted in-market-for-market strategies, producing goods in the region they plan to sell them.
Makes sense.
Also, more reliance on AI for forecasting demand, trying to get ahead of issues, a bigger push for supply chain transparency. Some even redesigned products to use fewer tariff-heavy components.
Sounds like a massive strategic rethink for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift back slightly to that sustainability push we mentioned. What specific regulations were emerging around this time?
The report highlights a few key ones. India, for instance, introduced a mandate back in February 2022. Required producers to recycle up to 50% of the plastic they use within 3 years.
50%, that's a big target.
It is a significant step towards a more circular economy for plastics there.
What else? Any other regions?
South Australia expanded its ban on single-use plastics in September 2024. That mandated compostable or reusable alternatives for many food containers, including takeaway stuff.
Okay, moving away from single use.
And the Indian government also set a 100% recycling target for rigid compostable plastic packaging. That was effective from FY 2023-24. So definitely a clear trend towards stricter rules, pushing for more sustainable options globally.
Right, regulations tightening up. Finally, who are the big names, the key players in this plastic ready meal tray market?
The report lists quite a few leaders. Companies like Sunoco Products, Silver Plastics, MCP Performance Plastic, Versatile Packaging, Furch, Omniform Group, DS Smith, Amcor, Quinn Packaging, Huhtamaki.
Okay, a mix of big global packaging giants and some more specialized players. What makes them leaders?
It's usually a combination of things. Broad product portfolios covering different needs, extensive distribution networks to reach customers globally, and crucially, a strong focus on innovation, both in materials and tray designs.
So a competitive field. Established players fighting for share while also having to navigate sustainability demands and these global trade shifts.
Precisely. It looks simple, that little plastic tray, but the market behind it is this complex interplay of convenience, economics, technology, environmental pressure, and global politics even.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. What are the absolute key takeaways from our deep dive today?
I'd say, one, it's a significant global market with strong growth projected, really fueled by convenience and food delivery.
Got it.
Two, this growth faces real pressure from environmental concerns and the consumer demand for sustainable options.
The big tension.
Three, growth varies a lot by region. APAC is the hotspot. Four, materials and tech are evolving PP leads, PET's rising fast, thermoforming is expanding.
Okay.
And finally, tariffs have caused major supply chain disruptions, while stricter sustainability rules are actively pushing the industry towards greener solutions.
So a really dynamic market.
Yeah.
Caught between, the tailwinds of convenience and the headwinds of environmental responsibility. Fascinating stuff.
It really is, and it raises a compelling question, maybe for you listening. Think about how your own choices around convenience food connect with these huge global trends and this push for better packaging. What's next? What future innovations in materials or design might shake this market up even more? Definitely something to ponder next time you peel back that film.